Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming back to the third webinar. In this webinar, we are going to be talking about some planting techniques and maintenance and care of our plants, how to get them in the ground and how to keep them growing. And then I will be addressing some common problems and pests as well, and diseases and weeds as well. So with that, I will just get started here. So let me just make a pointer here, right there. Okay, so I wanted to start off with the different kinds of plant materials that you could get to put your plants in the ground. Hopefully you kind of have an idea of the plants that you want. I know it was a lot of information last time about what kind of plants are even there and available, but and these plants, they all come different ways. You can get them in seeds, you can get them in cuttings, and this is also called live staking as well. You can get them bare root, and this is how the Conservation District sells them at our plant sales. You get them plugs, potted, or ball and burlapped. And here's just a few examples of what they look like. When you go to plant your plants, there are many different ways to plant them, and we want you to plant them the most successful way possible. Here is a chart of some of the common mistakes that people make when planting their plants. J-rooting is definitely one of the most common mistakes. People don't dig the hole big enough and they cram the roots in, and they're just too much in a hurry. So really just be careful of J-rooting your roots. This cuts off the roots right about here, and they can't get water or nutrients, and the plant will die. Here are some other problems that happen when people are planting, and here is a common one right here, the air bubble effect. One of the most important things when you are planting your plants is that the soil makes contact with the roots. You want to really make sure and push down the soil and compact it around the plant as you go. Compact it from the bottom up, and to eliminate any air bubbles. And then we see this all the time right here. So oftentimes you're planting in ground that is super hard, and you're just not taking time to actually prep your hole or your planting space. This is planting too shallow. As you can see, the roots are exposed right there. They're exposed to the wind, and eventually this plant will die. Or if you plant too deep, that can also kill the plant. And this is really mounding. It's really a problem planting too shallow. And then people always bring the dirt up around the roots because they know the roots need to be protected. But it's just the dirt is going to fall away here, and it's going to be exposed to all sorts of things and probably die. And so here is what we're going for. This is our satisfactory, pretty good. This is what we want to do right here. So when planting your plants, what is the best time? A lot of people think summer is the best time, and that's not. Summertime months are really low precipitation. It's super dry. It's not the best time to plant. You want to plant when the plants are fairly dormant. Spring and fall. Actually, fall is the best time. And so this is kind of a chart showing you the precipitation over a year for this area, for Sequim actually. And as you can see, this is the best time right here in the spring, in February and March, to plant. But you are going to be going into the summer months. So if you plant in the spring, then you will have to water all summer. Planting in October and November is actually one of the better times, and even into December when it's a little bit more dormant. This will ensure that they get rained in all winter. And so it's just kind of up to you. You know, it's like when the plants are available and when they're not available. Our bare root plants are available right through here, February and March. And so that's when you have to plant bare root plants. And so this just kind of gives you a look at a year's worth of precipitation and what would possibly be the best time. Fall is always the best time to plant though. When you receive your plants, there's many different ways that you can receive them. Here are a picture of bare root plants and plug stalks. Plugs are grown in small containers and they have soil on the roots, and the bare roots are grown in the ground and they're lifted from the ground, and so they do not have any soil on the roots. The advantages of planting the bare root and plug stalk is that they are inexpensive and lightweight, much more lightweight than lugging around 1-gallon pots or ball and burlap trees, and they ship well and just really easier to handle, so you can buy bigger quantities because they are usually less expensive. But the disadvantages are that there are limited species. Not every species can handle being bare root or being grown in a small little container like this, and when they're seasonally available. Like I said, that the bare root plants are dug out of the ground when they are in dormancy. So you have to plant them after January, December, January, February time. So you don't get a lot of choice. If you choose a potted plant that's been growing in a pot with soil, you can pretty much plant that at any time of year. Now it's better to plant even potted plants in the fall where they are going to have a consistent amount of water to get watered in and established. So I want to go over a little bit of bare root plant care with you. If you receive bare root plants, you want to either plant them immediately in their permanent home in pots, or heal them in. And I will go over these 3 different techniques of planting. You can store them for up to a week in a dark, cool, frost-free place. So not too warm and not too cold. The garage is a really great spot. You don't want to store them for too long. They're just not meant to be in storage. They're living things. That you can get, the roots can dry out, which is a really big deal. And to prevent that, you want to wrap the roots in, newspaper or shredded paper or moist sawdust, or throw some dirt in there, some moist dirt in the box as well. And yeah, don't store them for too long. You can store them, we suggest maybe only a week to store them, but then get them out. Get them in their permanent home is the #1 best place, or in pots, or heal them in. So you want to prepare ahead of time when you get bare root plants, especially. You know, we will sell plants in bundles of 25 or 10, and it takes time to plant 25 tree seedlings. So you want to be prepared ahead of time. You want to prepare the site ahead of time. You want to, if you're going to pot them up, get pots from the nurseries. Oftentimes you can get them for free, and you just want to wash them out. And make sure that if you're potting them up, or if you're going to heal them in, that you have proper topsoil or sawdust shavings, or just the materials to get them into their home or temporary home right away. Potting up plants is temporary. Even buying a potted plant is temporary. All plants want to be in the ground. Here is a picture of a very root-bound plant that happens when you keep them in pots too long. And here is also a very root bound plant. I don't know if that one would actually live. So If you plan on putting your plants in pots, just know that you're basically going to be running a small little nursery. They still need to be taken care of all through the summer and watered. You need to protect them from the wind and the sun. There's not a lot of soil in the pots, so you're going to have to water them probably every single day. You want to store them in a place that's out of the wind and the sun, close to a water source, so you can water them, and don't forget about them. You know, I mean, that is just, okay, I am guilty. I actually think I have about 15 pots of plants from plant sales from probably 6 years ago. Now, that is not, I mean, I know most gardeners will have potted plants just sitting around from years ago, and I don't know if any of them are going to live. I am determined to get them all in the ground. They actually should be in the ground already, but here we are. They're not in the ground yet. So just don't forget about your potted plants. I mean, sometimes we go out and we'll buy, oh, I want 25 blue elderberry, and that's exactly what I did. And now most of them have died, and I think I have 6 left. So, but they are about 5 years old. So anyway, before you plant up your bare root plants, even in pots, you want to soak them in water for a good 6 hours. So another option when you get a ton of plants, especially bare root plants, are healing them in. And here's a picture of what it is to heal them in. Healing plants in is a super temporary spot, very, very temporary home. Say you get them in spring, like, you know, March, we'll say, and you don't want to plant them until the fall. You could heal them in over the summer, but know that you still have to take care of them like a plant. You have to water them. You have to, you know, really tend to them. I think these temporary homes, the big problem is watering them. When you heal them in, you dig a trench like this, you need to have a space. You need to have a big pile of dirt or a big pile of chips and sawdust, and it should be close to a water source. You dig a trench like this, and then you put them all in like this, and you can put them in fairly close. Same thing though with potting them up. You want to protect them from intense direct sun and close to a water source, and don't forget about them. Make a plan to plant them in the fall. So it is just really a temporary, I've done this on large restoration projects where we've gotten thousands of plants at once and we can't get them all in the ground. So we do heal them over for a couple months. But yeah, got to make sure they have a water source. So bare root planting, you want to soak the roots before you put them in. So the thing about bare root planting is that the roots are the vulnerable part. They are out of the soil and they can dry out so easily. So they've been, by the time you receive them, they've probably been out of dirt for a week, week and a half. If that turnaround is fast enough, but they've probably been in coolers and wrapped tight. They should be. And so when you get your plants, you want to soak them before planting, at least 6 hours. You could do it overnight, but you don't want to, if it's wintertime, you don't want to do it outside where they will freeze. And actually, this water needs to come straight up to the top and cover all of the roots. If you can soak them in compost tea, that would be the best. Compost tea is, yeah, it's just a mix of tea made from, it can be any sort of micronutrients. It can be a plant material or manure. I'm not going to really go into compost tea. There's lots of recipes online, and just really a fantastic way to prepare your plants. So soaking them is a must. And as you are planting them, you want to make sure that you protect these roots. You don't want to open up the bag and lay them out at your planting site, because even if it's an overcast or cold day, they are exposed to the wind and they're drying out. So at all costs, protect the roots when you get bare root plants. When you go to dig your hole, you want to dig it wider than deeper, usually. You know, about twice the diameter of the roots. And you can trim off any of the excess roots that are hanging down that are really long. Trim them off with some scissors or some clippers. And you would, when you dig your hole, make a cone up in the center. Remember, there's like no dirt around these, so you want to cone it up in the center to try and fill up some of that space. And yeah, don't pull all your plants out and lay them out at your planting site at once. Pull them one at a time. You want to keep those roots protected, even if you think it's a cold, rainy day. When you put your plants in the hole, you want to spread your roots out. Spread them out over that cone of dirt. Then, when your plant is in the hole like this, you want to partially backfill, bring in some of the soil, and then tamp it down. You always want to plant with the native soil as much as possible. You can mix in a little bit of topsoil if your soil is really, you know, nutrient deficient or just needs a little amendment, but the native soil is the best. It's the best way to get the plants started. So fill it in. First, you want to fill it in, backfill about halfway, tamp it down so that there's lots of contact with the roots in the dirt, and water it. Water that lower half. Water it in, let the water soak through. Then finish filling it in, backfill some more, tamp it down real tight. You want to make sure there's lots of contact with the roots in the soil. And you can even make a little bit of a catch basin around the plant and then water it again. So watering your plant in the day you plant them is really important. So, and then after it's all planted, mulching around the plant will just really help you. Will help with water conservation and just really hold that moisture in. And it will also help to eliminate the footprint of any grasses around, which would eliminate competition as well. And then we often say install a plant protector. So I just want to talk about plant protectors a little bit here. So this is one of our current restoration sites. You might recognize it. It's on the Dungeness River. It's down with River's Edge is what it's called, River's Edge, Rev-Edge. We are partnering with Jamestown's Clallam tribe to put in plants on 52 acres of riparian here. The river runs right here, and this old levee is going to be pulled out, and there's a setback levee that's built over here. These plants all have protectors on them. So we've done a variety of trees and shrubs, and we planted all bare root plants. And, you know, people ask, are protectors really important? Well, we really think they are, because it just gives them that extra edge. So this is a field. This field has been mowed. The grass is usually, you know, 2, 3 feet, 4 feet tall. And there's a lot of mice in this grass. There are a lot of rodents, all kinds of rodents. And so the protector protects the base of the trees and the shrubs from the mice and the rodents chewing on them. A lot of times the rodents will get in there and chew all the way around the base to get to that inner bark and actually girdle and kill the tree. The plant protector also protects from machinery. We will have to go in here and weed whack around these plants to keep the grass down. When you plant in a field like this, it's all about reducing the grass competition. So The protector, it protects it from the machinery so that you can see where the plant is at and you don't accidentally weed whack it down. And another thing about the plant protectors is that it discourages the grass from taking over and smothering the plant. It just keeps the grass away a little bit. So there's a lot of reasons to use protectors. We recycle our protectors from project to project, and we get as many uses as we can out of them. They are made with hard plastic, and we feel it really gives them, a leg up or a root up, whatever you want to call it. So here is another restoration site. This is on the Elwha River. And this can be done in your backyard as well. This is live staking. So here is an example of live staking of willow and cottonwood. All species of willow can be live staked, and you want to cut your stakes from mature willow trees, and these ones are about 3 to 4 feet tall. When you sink them in the ground, you want to sink 3 to 4 nodes. And the nodes are these little places here where there's a natural joint where a leaf comes out, and you want to sink that under, about 3 or 4 nodes under. The best way to live stake is to get a rock bar. It just makes a nice straight hole, and you can just make a little hole. You don't have to dig real deep with a shovel. And there's lots of cobble here. This was a real cobbly area, so like digging down was just really hard. And so if you live next to a stream, or usually they do better in a wet area, live staking is definitely an option. You want to cut the live stakes from the willow and cottonwood trees in the winter time. You want to plant them before everything starts to break bud. So that could be as early as like late February. So you want to plant them before everything breaks bud. You kind of want to do it in dormancy time. And then here they are, the next year, doing great. These ones are. They're pretty close to the water. They have a nice source of water, but willow and cottonwood do fantastic when live staking. You can also live stake red osier dogwood, and red elderberry are 2 other ones that I know live stake really well. So before you get all your plants and buy them or get them from wherever you're going to get them, site preparation is important. There's different ways to prepare for the site. So right here, this guy is scalping. This is what we call scalping. It is removing an area of grass around the center of where you're going to plant. So like I said, grass is aggressive, and when planting in a field, to reduce that grass competition is just super important for survival of the plant. It's hard work, but it's worth it. Here's another way to scalp as well. So this is just using a string line, a weed eater with a string on it. You can scalp around, really get that dirt. So this guy is not, he just started, but when he's done, there'll be like a nice dirt patch around here. That's a great way to do it. It's very quick. It's using machinery. And then of course you can rototill up an area. And if you're doing large installation, you might have to bring in topsoil and machinery to bring it in. So site prep is just really important. It takes longer than you think, and could be done a couple days ahead of getting your plants. You don't want to do it too far ahead where the grass will start growing back, but a couple days, definitely 4 or 5 days ahead. And here's a little bit more of site prep as well. This is also out at the River's Edge Restoration Site. We were so lucky to be able to have machinery to help out because we put in 7,000 plants this year. We are putting in 15,000 plants next year, and then possibly another 5,000 the year after. We had an auger. This one is a machine auger. I mean, and this is what it looked like. It was fantastic. You know, just helped us to just go double time and get it done. You can do hand augers as well. There's just all sorts of machinery and things that can help. If you can, you know, use your machines and make it easier, because planting all day can get painful. Painful on the knees and the back and the elbows, everything. So oftentimes, so you can't get machinery into the places that you need to get to, and there's just too much shrubbery or wood and trees, but this is just one way to prep the site. So this is a picture of sheet composting or cardboard composting here. This is a great way, really great way to plant. So you dig the hole, you put in your plant. But actually, before you put in your plant, you scalp the grass right here, at least a foot out from the center here on both sides. And then you put down cardboard. The cardboard will really help keep that grass down, or any other, you know, if you're planting in the middle of other plants, you have to reduce competition. And then you top it with about 4 inches of mulch. You want to taper the mulch like this. You don't want it to be like right up against the shrub or tree. It could kind of rot it out a little bit. That's not too much of a problem, but this is just really great. Using cardboard is just an excellent way to suppress weeds and grass, put it around, all, you know, everything. Just know that if you do use cardboard and you don't put mulch on top of it, a wind comes along and it'll just blow it everywhere. It'll be all over the neighborhood. So you'll be running around picking up cardboard everywhere. And I've learned that one from experience. And mulch. I just want to spend a minute on mulch because, you know, mulching is, you know, amazing. There's so many benefits from mulch. Not only is there water conservation benefits, it suppresses weeds, it helps the soil temperature, it builds the soil. These soil building activities are just really important. We need to really invest in our topsoil. You know, it helps promote the worms, the mycorrhizal fungi, and the mycorrhizal fungi is just the network underground that connects all the plants with nutrients and water, and it's just pretty amazing. Mycorrhizae is. You can use inorganic mulches. I mean, like cardboard is kind of, well, I guess it's organic, inorganic, something like that. It's it will enhance the soil biology, but there's a lot of inorganic ones out there that won't add much to the soil. And then don't forget to irrigate or water. Now, most of our native plants are going to be self-sustaining, but they're all going to need help for 1 to 3 years at least. And they're probably going to need some water if we are hitting these really high highs, high temperatures above 100 degrees, like we saw last summer. You want to, you know, I have found out in restoration projects that if plants make it the first year, there's about an 80% chance that they're going to make it the second year if they're not hit with disease or something. So just know that the first 2 to 3 years, you will need to water, soaking the root zone. You know, you don't need to spray the water everywhere, but soaking the root zone is the best way to water deep. You can water deep and less often. So now we're going to just get into the weeds of things a little bit here. We've got our invasive weeds. I'm going to kind of go through some of the heavy hitters. It seems that blackberry grows everywhere and it's really a problem. It creates these huge canes and the above ground biomass is just like massive and it's prickly. It's really hard to deal with. So there we have two kinds of blackberry. The Himalayan blackberry, Rubus armenicus, right here, is what we see most often. It produces these big canes, but we also have the evergreen blackberry, Rubus laciniatus, right here. The sharp pointy leaves versus the more rounded leaves. These leaves are serrated on the edge, but they're definitely rounded. I mean, you can see a big difference. Honestly, I think that the berry on the Himalayan is way better than the berry on the evergreen. The evergreen berry seems to be very seedy. They both produce a flower like this. They're in the rose family. They have these protruding stamens, and they both produce berries like this as well. So I just want to say, do not deprive yourself of an invasive berry pie. I feel like it's our duty as citizens to help reduce the seed bank by eating invasive pie. So this is one, it's called invasive eating, and nobody should deprive themselves of this pleasure. It's a really good berry, but when it gets to like this, it's just out of control. It will take over and it will monoculture. So monoculturing is when a plant is aggressive and it will not let any other plants grow, and it becomes like a monocrop, a monoculture. So to deal with huge canes like this, you can knock it back like he's doing with a weed eater and a blade, the blade attachment, and then come through and paint the tops with an herbicide. So it's really hard to break in to these blackberry thickets just because of all the biomass. So it's one of those things that you can do, you know, year by year, but if you just keep at it. The thing about invasive weeds is that you just need to keep at it. It's usually never a one and done. It's always a 5-year plan. If anybody has land, if anybody has or is doing a huge restoration project or small or a garden, you're gonna have to deal with weeds. You should make a weed plan. So everybody needs a weed plan. You can also come in if you're developing with excavators and grub out, just pull these crowns out, grub them, pull them and pile them. And eventually the pile will go down, but you need to come back and, you know, take care of any sprouts that are coming up because there is going to be seed bank here in the ground. So blackberries, you know, they grow really fast and if you just stay on them and if you go back year after year, you can eventually get a handle on it. You can also spray these with chemicals, but you can only reach so far. So it's going to be 1 year, another year, another year. It's just really hard to reach across these big thickets of blackberries. Reed canary grass is another heavy hitter. This one is usually found in riverbanks, gravelly soils. It grows where there's no canopy. It can be shaded out, but oftentimes it's found in areas where there is going to be no canopy, like an estuary or a riverbank or the mouth of a river. This, or in an open field. Reed canary grass, you know, when it's really short, it's okay for forage. Sometimes horses and cattle will graze on it, but once it gets past 6 inches tall, they usually don't choose it. It's aggressive, super aggressive. It will spread by seed and by rhizome. And here's a picture of a rhizome, underground rhizome growing. So this is actually a picture of reed canary grass that was chemically treated right here. But this plant grows so fast that the chemical did not have enough time to translocate, and then it just kept growing underground right here. So that's why I say timing is everything. Even with blackberry, with most plants, if you're going to use chemical control or even manual control, you want to do it when the plants are senescing, which means when they're dying back, when they're going down. Especially perennial plants, you want to kill them at the root zone. You want to get them there. If you just kill the top part, there's underground growth that is going to keep going. And so this is a really, this is a plant that has almost more underground biomass than it does on the top. So it's really a booger. It's a difficult one. And two more heavy hitters here. We've got Herb Robert or Stinky Bob, Geranium robertanum. This is a little shade-loving geranium that can monoculture easily. It is allelopathic, means it puts out chemicals that prohibit growth from other plants. This one you can pull, and pull. The seed bank is about 7 years, and so you will need to stay at it. The amount will be reduced as you pull, but you will want to put this in a black plastic bag, tight. Never ever put weeds in the compost pile. It's dangerous. Oftentimes compost piles don't get hot enough to kill seed or kill roots if they vegetatively reproduce. Yeah, so this is one you want to stay after. Shade loving ground geranium gets to be about 1 to 2 feet high, and it stinks. There's a reason why it's called Stinky Bob. If you see one, you should crush it and smell it just so you can remember that smell. And Canada thistle. This is one that takes over pastures, and it is another one like reed canary grass that has such a strong underground rhizome growth that really chemical treatment is one of the only ways to get rid of it. You want to spray this one if you're going to do chemical treatment right before it blooms. It does attract a lot of pollinators. That's why you don't want to spray it when it blooms. And you can smother it out, but you need to smother it for like 3 to 5 years. So sometimes it's just not practical to do those kinds of things. So it's definitely a problem. And I have to mention Japanese knotweed, polygonum species. There's 3 or 4 species of knotweed, or I think the botanical name has changed to Fallopia japonica. It's hard to keep up with the Latin names as they do keep changing. But this one is mandatory control in Clallam County, and it is, you find it along riverbanks. It decreases the river size as it will encroach in and in and in on the river and decrease the bank full or bank width. So the bank width is just from one side to the next side, the high water mark. It can grow 6 inches a day, 8 inches a day. People say you can watch it grow if you stare at it long enough. And it's called bamboo. It looks like bamboo. And it's another one of those that has such intense, strong underground growth that if you cut it, it stimulates the underground growth. And it just is like, okay, I'm going to come back harder and faster. And so, yeah, if you see this one, you should let the Clallam County Noxious Weed Board know. They can help you. And here's what I like to call the horticulture escapees. And so they have escaped the horticulture industry and now are running rampant out in the woods. English ivy, Hydra helix, is just super aggressive. Hopefully everybody knows what it is. It's berry right here. It fruits when it's on its upward growth. So it climbs up trees, it can strangle trees, and it likes to fruit on its growth upward. So the European starling likes to eat it, and spread it. So that's our invasive bird spreading our invasive weed. So this one is, you can pull it. It is pretty invasive to the native soil because it disrupts it so much, but sometimes you have to do what you have to do to get it out. I would clip it around the base of trees so it dies, the upgrowth dies, and then you can pull or treat the bottom growth as well. Vinca species, there are several kinds of vinca. This is not super aggressive in the wild, but I'll be out in the woods and I'll find it in patches. And it's, yeah, just one of those that is, you got to watch it. It's a ground crawler, climbs over things. And English holly, this one also, there's lots of holly cultivars, and this one is the tree type holly with this red berry. The red berry, again, feeds the European starling. They love it. And these need to be taken down. They need to be cut down, girdled, and painted, their stump painted with a little bit of herbicide. Butterfly bush and yellow archangel, two heavy hitters that are still sold at nurseries. They are both on the quarantine list. I just checked. It's good to check that quarantine list, Washington quarantine list. They're not supposed to be sold at nurseries. Butterfly bush is super aggressive. We have a big problem of it on the Dungeness River, and people love it because of this purple flower. It, you know, pollinators do use it. Pollinators use our invasive weed flowers, but it's no good. It's super aggressive. It doesn't even let the willow grow, and willows are generally slightly aggressive. Yellow archangel is a ground cover. It's a shade loving ground cover, so people love it. I mean, people have bought it for years and years and put it in their garden, and now it's absolutely everywhere. It just rolls over all these plants. It goes in the forest, when you see it, it goes over sword fern and salmonberry and everything. It vegetatively reproduces. This is definitely one that you do not want to put in your compost. You want to bag it up real tight and put it in the trash. So just be aware of these. They are still being sold at nurseries. Two more invasive plants that actually have semi-effective biocontrols are purple loosestrife right here. Purple loosestrife loves water. You find it in estuaries, the stagnant brackish water ponds. If you see it around a pond, if you see a purple flowering plant around an estuary or water, 90% it will be purple loosestrife. The other 10% it'll be fireweed. It does look a lot like fireweed. There is a weevil here that's been really successful at eating the flower and the flowering part, so it doesn't produce a seed. So this weevil, there's actually like 3 different kinds of weevils that eat it. The weevils are not native, but they are highly targeted only for loosestrife. You know, biocontrols go through 10 or 15 years of rigorous testing with Department of Agriculture before they're released. So yeah, it's pretty safe. There have been some mistakes, but you know. Scots broom, otherwise known as Scotch broom. It has a 30 to 90 year seed bank. It's everywhere. Everybody should know this one. There is a weevil. This is a weevil, and there's also a beetle that is a biocontrol for this. We used this on several stands of Scotch broom. The weevil and the beetle only eat the seed. So it's a seed reduction technique. So it takes time. Like it really takes time for this to catch on and for the populations to get big enough to make an impact. But it is an option. You can get these insects through the Washington State University extension. They have a biocontrol manager there, and that's where I've received them before as well. So yeah, 2 plants that are invasive. There's an option here for a biocontrol. You can also do mechanical control, pull them out, pull them out. So just to go over, you know, some of the control options, hand pulling, I feel like that's just pretty self-explanatory. It can be really laborious. Biocontrols, and then chemical controls, spraying, cut and paint. If you're going to have someone come and do chemical control, make sure they're licensed. They have to, by law, comply with the Clean Water Act and report any herbicide that they use if they're near water. And yeah, it's just good to make sure they're licensed. Another option is vinegar. Does vinegar work? It does work to a certain extent. Household vinegar like these are 5% acetic acid. Weed control grade vinegar is 20% acetic acid. It's strong stuff. I consider vinegar chemical control. It will definitely control annual weeds. It's a contact control where it kills it on contact. Some other chemicals are systemic, where the plant takes it in and it goes all the way down to the roots to kill it that way. If you are using vinegar, 20% vinegar, I would definitely wear personal protective equipment, PPE, safety glasses, chemical resistant gloves, 4 milliliters thick is what is recommended at least, closed-toed shoes, and long sleeves. Eye protection, definitely. So yeah, just be safe out there. So I just wanted to take a little minute here and pause and see if there are any questions. Oh, and I wanted to let you know that this picture here is a restoration site that we worked with Lower Elwha tribe on Little River. And here he's got the trees that he's planting, he's protecting the roots, and they're covered, and he's out, you know, doing his planting. He actually has a pickaxe there because this is kind of tough ground. So anyway, yeah, so I'm just going to take questions here, and maybe I'll see what's in the chat.
Yeah, there's quite a few in the chat, Kim, so
okay,
that should start you off.
Okay, so what's heal in? I mean, I mentioned it, and then I think I described it a couple slides later, so I'll come back to that if I didn't answer that enough. On the Dungeness project, will water be diverted or will it just be overflow? So it's going to be a natural floodplain project where when the old levee is removed, the river will meander and do its thing. And so it's to create floodplain. It's not really creating river bank. It's an area to open up for the river. So like the Dungeness River has all those dikes on the sides. They're like dams. They're dams on the sides instead of a dam going across. And rivers need to meander to create that really good salmon habitat. So yeah. Can blue elderberry also be live staked? Yes, it can. Red elderberry and blue elderberry. Try to avoid the mulch volcano. Yeah, don't like make it up into a volcano against the the stem. Do incense cedar have the same issues with wasting disease? I do not know. Possibly, but I think that incense cedars have different water requirements. That's not really a question I have an answer to. If anybody knows, send me the answer. I've been able to control thistle by cutting it back before it blooms every year. That way I don't have to use chemicals. Has that worked for you in smaller areas? Yes, definitely can cut back thistle in small areas. I'm so used to dealing with super large infestations. And so, you know, we don't want to use chemical control, and that is our last resort. But definitely you can cut it back. I've also seen the thistle, you cut it back so many years, it starts growing really low to the ground and flowering underneath the mower. level. So just kind of watch that and see if that happens. But yeah, you definitely can cut it back. You just cut it back. It does take labor. There is supposedly a sterile butterfly bush. That's what the nurseries are selling. So I've read, you're right, there is, you're right. I forgot about that until you mentioned it. Yep, there is a sterile butterfly bush. I guess for me, I'm trying to just get it out. Like, I wish we could just have lilac bushes instead of butterfly bushes. I just don't want there to be any confusion for people, but yes, there is. And so if you love the butterfly bush, that's the way to go. If we see invasive plants like the archangel, should we contact the county? Well, you know, honestly, the county is so busy. They will consult with you on these really dangerous ones. Boy, like knotweed and boy, poison hemlock. I didn't even put it in there. I meant to put in poison hemlock, the ones that are poisonous. They will come out and help with control. They will also give you a plan. They'll help you make a plan for your weeds. But I know that they don't have the staff time to come out and do everything. But, you know, so it's kind of up to us to talk to our neighbors, see if we can go in, see if we can pull it, bag that yellow archangel, do not put it in the compost, throw it in the, you know, dumpster or a place, you know, an approved garbage. So it goes to the dump. And yeah, you know, the county really only has time for really big, heavy infestations and the really poisonous ones as well. So yeah. And if anybody else has a question, they can unmute themselves. I think that was everything in the chat. If you feel like it, just unmute and you can chat away.
Oh, there's a couple more questions that came in, Kim, just right now. It starts with the fireweed question.
Okay, fireweed. Okay, fireweed is growing in my garden this year and I like to leave it, but pull if when it spreads too much. Is that, oh, sorry here, let me get, is that realistic? Yeah, it's fireweed's amazing. It's a great native plant. I love it. It's so beautiful. Once it starts clumping, you'll have to work at it to get it, to keep it at bay. But yeah, it's definitely realistic. It's not overly aggressive, I don't think. It could be, but yeah, depends on how much work you want to do. Hope that answers that question. And are these slides with the pictures available? Megan, can you, we do the recording. There's going to be a recording available. Is that what hopefully that's going to be enough for you, or are you wanting to use the slides? So Megan, do you know if we do that, give out PowerPoints?
Yeah, we definitely could. We usually just do them as a PDF version, so it wouldn't be the actual PowerPoint because it's
right.
too big to share that. So yeah, if it looks like Susan, if you just want the PDF version of that, if you emailed Kim your email address, then she could probably just PDF those and send them to you.
Yeah. Good. I mean, we want, you know, they're going to be on our website. We just want everybody to get this information, you know, as much as possible. And there's so much more information I could have put in there, but as I'm going through it, I'm like, oh, I missed this and I missed that. Okay. It looks like the end of the chat. If anyone wants to unmute real quick, ask something, you can.
There was just one more, and I have to agree with it. Someone said that wanted to say that you're really good at this, Kim, and I'd agree. Great presentation.
Well, thank you. I love plants.
You can tell you're very passionate about it, and it's great.
Okay, good. Well, I will move on. Thank you for that. So I wanted to talk about some of the common pests that we see around our plants. So tent caterpillars are generally on a 3-year cycle. Some years they're super, super, super bad. And then they're like lighter. And then you know, I can't really keep track of when they're coming, but they are a problem. They can defoliate trees. They're just, sometimes they just take over like little aliens. Manual control. You can hunt the egg cases in the fall and remove them right here. This is what I used to do when I was a kid, because we had an apple orchard and it was my job to go around and find as many of these as possible. Of course, I would just squish them with my hands. Anyway, when you're a kid, you do a lot of things. And so this is what they look like. They can defoliate the tree. Generally, they don't kill the trees, but they can really stress them. And if we have, it's year after year of stress, like if we have drought and then insects, and you know, that's what can kill some of these native plants. They weaken them, kind of like what's happening with the cedar trees. There is, the control is Bacillus thuringiensis. I think I said that right. Sometimes Latin throws me for a curve. It's a naturally occurring bacteria, and you spray it on the leaves, they eat the leaves, and then they would die. It does not harm the bees or the birds, and it's safe around pets and children. So it's pretty safe stuff. And if you're having, you know, a problem, you can get rid of them that way. What we used to do is we used to prune out the early nests and burn them. And that just really helps to stop them. So if you see a little web going, just cut it out, burn it, or throw it away. Here is a egg case that has all been hatched. I just thought it was kind of interesting to see. So, and here's the female. Gypsy moth is a much more intense moth caterpillar. It is destroying trees on the East Coast, and it's coming west. And it is around here, but we have a pretty good trapping system right here. Department of Agriculture has put out this, if you see these, that is a capture for the gypsy moth. Sometimes they're green, like bright green also. And inside is a little lure that has some hormone that attracts the gypsy moth. We have the male and the female here, really extremely hard to see. You can hardly ever see them. And the caterpillar is identified with the blue dots up in the front and followed by a bunch of red dots. They do not produce webs like the tent caterpillars. They produce these little cottony cocoons, and they are voracious eaters, and they will defoliate and kill forests. They defoliate so much. So this is something, this huge trapping effort has been successful. So if you see these, leave them alone. And you can also even get 10 or 20 if you want to put around, as long as you check them. And you can get them from, let's see, Department of Agriculture, and hang them around. But you do need to kind of commit to checking them to see if you capture anything. So here, oh, this is kind of back to weeds again. I'm gonna let you guys decide if these are weeds or not. There's a lot of discussion. So a lot of people confuse hairy cat's ear, which is Hippocaris, and with dandelion right here. Hairy cat's ear is a fuzzy basal leaf with lobes, whereas the dandelion is not fuzzy, it's smooth, and it's got more spiky leaflets. The hairy cat's ear, Megan just told me that it is toxic to horses. Is it horses and all livestock? Or
you know,
not?
I know for sure horses, but I'm not sure about the rest of livestock.
Okay.
But just exercise caution with any animals around this.
Okay. So yeah, the difference in the flower here, the hairy cat's ear, there are some hairy cat's ears that are invasive, but this one is just super abundant. It like takes over our pastures and our lawns, has this long stalk, a little different flower, whereas these just have single stalks that come up and have this flower. So the dandelion is really important for our pollinators. It is one of our earliest flowering plants, and they really need that early source. So when planting your native plants, choose your flowering plants throughout the seasons, from all the spring to late fall, to really provide a resource for our pollinators. And but this one is not so much of an important pollinator plant. So there's just a lot of talk. Is dandelion a weed or not? You decide. Is hairy cat's ear a weed or not? I think it is, but you can still decide. But yeah, now that I find out that it's toxic to horses, it's definitely a weed. It needs to go. And so here we are, we're jumping back to the insects. The Asian giant hornet is becoming a problem, and we need to band together to really help take care of this. In 2021, 4 nests were found in Whatcom County. This is a predatory voracious hornet. Most hornets are predatory. I think this is a bald-faced hornet. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but this is the Asian giant, 2 inches long, 3-inch wingspan, very much a threat to our honeybees. It will find a hive and one by one take off the heads of every single bee. Beekeepers have found, they walk out one day, piles of dead bees with no heads. And so they're just really, really predatory and territorial. They make their nests inside trees, and yeah, just really a big deal. It could be a really big problem. So 4 nests were found in Whatcom County and 4 nests found in British Columbia in 2021. We need to, you know, I mean, it's so hard to track insects. So there are, if you have a sighting, please report it on the WSDA website, the Hornet Watch Report form. They also have home bait things that you can make to catch the hornet as well. So yeah, this is an up and coming threat to our pollinators. And I wanted to talk about the spruce weevil. The spruce weevil is a local weevil that is impacting our spruce trees. It's really prevalent out west, I would say kind of Joyce West, where we grow a lot more spruce, where spruce actually grows a lot better out there. It's really a problem with our timber. It will, when you first get infected, when trees first get infected, this is what happens. It's the tip die out, and then you finally get more death. And what it does is it burrows in and plant into the wood, and the larvae grow inside and they just eat the tree from the inside out. Oftentimes they won't hit the tree until it's a certain height. I want to say around 15 feet. And so you'll be growing this wonderful tree, and then bam, it's dead. So there's not a lot you can do about this. You know, wood boring insect. And it's one of those things. I know a lot of the timber companies are switching over to hemlock now, from spruce to hemlock, as a part of trying to deal with it. I know a lot of companies have all spruce, they grow all spruce, and now they're just like, they have to grow hemlock or Doug fir, but hemlock seems to do a little bit better out west there. So yeah, there are chemical options, but boy, it's really hard to get. When they're hiding out on the inside of the tree, they're not always getting exposed like they should. Pine bark beetles. We have pine bark beetles, and these can destroy trees. They burrow inside and they disrupt the transport of water and nutrients. This is what they look like. They bore holes like this, and the holes sometimes get pitched out. You can also see a ring of dust around the tree from their boring. And once you've got a tree that's infected, you know, there's not much you can do. They say cut down the tree and remove it. Get rid of the tree. So you get to start over, but make sure you remove it properly. I'm not even exactly sure what the proper way is. I'd have to do a little research, but yeah, it's just so hard. Insects that bore into woods they're hard to follow and use chemical control. They say just remove the tree so it doesn't infect other trees. There are homemade insect pest remedies. There's a ton of them. There's a ton online. You can make little spray bottles full of onion and garlic and cayenne and soapy water and spray them on your plants. That's one that you can put on your vegetables. That's, it's edible. You can also spray just a salt water mixture onto your plants to help get rid of, aphids and other little pests. And they say sprinkle salt around your plants. I've actually never tried that. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. To stop a current outbreak, say you've got a ton of aphids or something, you can actually do the same spray right on top of them. The soapy water, or you can even put oil in it, actually kind of suffocates the insect, so that will kill the insect. Chrysanthemum tea contains natural pyrethrine, which interrupts the nervous system. Pyrethrine is used in a lot of herbicides already. And neem oil, this is the neem tree. Neem oil is non-toxic to birds and mammals and plants. You can get it online. It is slightly toxic to fish and other aquatic insects and animals. It only harms insects when they eat the plant. It will really target insects. So neem is in a lot of, natural pesticides. I mean, it's natural, but it's still a chemical. It's still kind of an intense chemical. Stopping ants. I've used this quite a bit. Spray a line with mint oil and they won't cross it. They won't come in your house, but it doesn't kill them, but they won't cross it. They don't like mint oil. And mint oil is also something you can put in to your little hand spray bottle if you want to. Ants will eat a mixture of borax and sugar water. If you put it on the floor or somewhere around, they'll eat it and they'll take it back to their nests and they will die. So that's how you can get rid of them. So there are a ton of home remedies. You can look them up and have fun and just, make your own mixture there. And deers, oh boy, deers are a problem in the gardens. There's a ton of deer repellents, liquid fence, sprays. The downside to this is that you need to spray the plants after every rain. They will wash off with the rain, but they are pretty good. They have it down. They know what will deter a deer. There are solar powered motion deterrent contraptions, lights that you can get that will flash in the middle of the night when from motion detector. And you can also get that for water too. It's a motion detector and it'll spray water and get the deer and scare them away. I've heard that they do eventually get used to it, so you have to move them around and kind of make it so they can't predict it. And the light motion detector, it could, if you have it near a window, it might shine into the house in the middle of the night or give you a flash. Or you can install a tall, very tall fence. 13 to 15 feet is kind of the going height, or let your dogs out, chase the deer away. Also, one thing that I know works pretty well is hanging sacks of Irish Spring around your garden. The deers do not like the strong scent of Irish Spring, and eventually, slowly, they biodegrade, and the water, the rain will, dissolve them, but it's actually a pretty easy way. Deers will eat almost anything. Okay, even plants that are not, they're supposed to be deer proof. They will nibble on fresh leaves all the time, no matter what it is. They'll try everything. And especially if you have a food garden, and they're just creatures of habit. They know once they find your garden, they'll come back and they'll come back. So if you get deer, you're probably going to get them again and again. And you can install fences around things like this, and tall fences, but just don't leave the gate open. You leave the gate open once and there it goes. There goes your garden. So yeah, there's the deer issue. And I wanted to mention a project here called City Shade Project. Paul Forrest is a citizen of Port Angeles that has really spearheaded this. He is committed to getting more urban canopy in the cities, both cities, Sequim and Port Angeles, and even Forks. So he is working with the city to change the permit process right now. Right now you have to pay $30 if you want to plant a tree in your planting strip, and you have to buy your own tree, and it has to be a very specific species, a species with a single trunk, deciduous, and ones that do not bulge the concrete or crack the concrete. And there are 3 native species accepted on the tree city planting list: Gary oak, Douglas maple, and serviceberry. Now, serviceberry is more of a woody shrub, but when it comes to urban canopy, I would, we need more canopy. I mean, just there's study after study after study that just shows that just at least having canopy improves all sorts of things, from air quality to stormwater management to just, so many things. So yeah, City Shade Project. Right now he is working with the city. It's up and coming. Right now he's working to get a free permit process, to get a free tree, and have free help planting the tree. So if you know any city officials, Sequim, Port Angeles, Forks, wherever, ask them to support this project. It's a matter of changing policy right now, which can be bogged down, but it can be done. And we all just need more canopy, especially in our urban areas. So, and here's some of the trees he grew out, and here's some of the areas that these are Port Angeles pictures. We need to have trees right here. So yeah. So that is the end of my presentation. Hatninzen, thank you for listening. I'll take any questions or comments. And I can check the chat. Okay. Okay. So I'm checking the chat, and I think it starts at Harry Cat's ear. It creates a mat that blocks other plants. Yes, Harry Cat's ear. It's just not good. You got to get rid of it. You can just pull, and it comes out pretty easy. It does have a tap root, but it comes out pretty easy. Any way besides pulling Harry Cat's hair to rid it? Oh, chemical control. I mean, otherwise it's manual control. I don't know if anybody else knows. Send me the ideas, because that's all I know of. I was told that salt is not good, as it is bad for the soil and nothing will grow. And maybe that's true. I put it in there because as I was researching for this, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I've never heard of that before. And it doesn't seem like it would be good, but yeah. Oh, and this can harm bees. Is that the salt? The salt can harm bees. Okay, stay away from salt. Will the home remedies harm amphibians? Okay, you're right. We haven't really talked about amphibians. And the Irish Spring even repels humans. Yes, it does. That's good. Amphibians, boy, the frogs and the salamanders, they have such sensitive skin that they're really, I am not sure if they harm the amphibians, but I would say they probably do. I mean, if it kills insects, I mean, our amphibians are so special in that they just like have that porous skin that just, they're such like indicators of pollution. And yeah, we need to be really careful of our amphibians. So do your research before. I mean, there's so much information out there. Sometimes it's hard to weed through, but yeah, I would check that one out. Love the name forest. Let's see. So yeah, city shade project is not approved. He is working on it. He's growing out trees so that there can be free trees. And it's just a matter of changing city policy, you know, so people can actually make it work. Okay, so neem oil harms bees. Anything that harms one thing is likely to harm another. Grow organic. Interesting. Okay, I didn't come across that. I didn't think it does harm bees, but maybe it does. You know, it's, even though it is neem oil is a natural, it's still a chemical. It's still strong. You're right, Judith. Anything that harms one thing is likely to harm another. Okay, I didn't know that about neem oil. Good to know. I've never used it. I just know it's in a lot of different natural products. So yeah. What about using sword fern fronds for mulch? I trim the fronds that grow over my paths. Yes, absolutely. Use any sort of plant parts for mulch. You can use leaves from the maples, or you can use your clippings from, you know, pruning. Yeah, definitely use those. So that looks like all the messages, all the chat questions, and anyone can unmute and we can talk if you want.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. This is Judith. I planted 30 Mahonia repens, I think, from the Conservation District sale, along with about as many sword ferns, at least 4 or 5 years ago, and they're just not growing. They're under, they get a little bit of sun, but they're kind of under trees mostly, at the edge of them, I guess. And the sword ferns have they have grass around them. So, and the others have mulch and some ag cloth because they're of the location. The sword ferns, with the fact that they have grass around them, is that possibly keeping them from growing?
Oh boy. So, you know, transplant shock is real, but I know you said they've been like 5 years old.
Yeah, bare root from the annual sale. Yeah.
Okay.
So they're alive, they grow new fronds, but they're just not growing.
Yeah, they're not thriving. You know, it's really hard to answer questions like this because I don't have the whole picture, but are they getting enough water and shade? Because I know that sword ferns need a big shade. If they're in any sort of direct sunlight, even part of the day, that can inhibit their growth.
Not really. I mean,
Okay.
they're on a corner, but there's Douglas firs and a big plum tree and a Scots pine next to them.
Yeah. Boy, that's hard. I really can't answer that. I mean, it sounds like you've done everything right and they're in the right position or the right place. I don't know, Megan, do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I hate to say it, but I don't know that much about ferns. We've actually never sold them at the Clallam Conservation District sale. Maybe Jefferson Conservation District has sold them. So I don't know much other than just, yeah, agreeing that probably a lot of shade, and it's so hard to know, you know, different soil types and things can affect them so drastically. So maybe the soil's not acidic enough either. Perhaps that could be something that could be inhibiting them.
Okay, that helps.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to you know, it sounds like you're doing everything right. What's that?
I'll give them some acid fertilizer.
Yeah, try that.
Okay,
yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yep, it says every native plant I've grown is super slow growing. You know, they can be really slow growing. And that's the thing about natives. They're not these like bred plants to like have big, beautiful flowers and grow huge. They're, you know, they have to naturalize. And so that's, sometimes they find a place they love and take off. And then sometimes they're like, well,
Oh,
kind of hang out.
well, thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you guys showed up and that there's been interest. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Does anyone else have any comments or questions?
I have a question. I have very rocky soil, and if it's not all of it, but many places, and where it's not rocky, it's been compacted, and then other places where they scraped away to build the house is a pile of rotted logs, and there's rotted logs everywhere. So I guess this is probably combining a couple questions in one. But in areas where it's really rocky, I was thinking of taking rotted logs and not digging a hole into the rocky soil, but just kind of creating a rotten log soil mixture to plant something on top of instead of digging a hole. Would that work for a small, like a shore pine? Or would it just, I mean, I'm in my mind, eventually it sets down roots in that, but.
Right. Yeah, I'd say you want to mix the soil. You always want to mix the native soil, the rocky soil with, you know, rotten log soil is good. And other sort, I would probably amend it with just a little bit of topsoil to kind of give it that, you know, just a little bit more soil texture. But definitely mix it, and not just right where the plant is. I would do like, you know, 3 or 4 foot radius. Because it sounds like that rocky soil is pretty depleted and just needs some sort of attention, and any sort of like organic material that you can put on it would be great.
Okay. And then on, like, you know, when the piles of logs have just been basically like a brush pile, they're old brush piles. And so I've been just kind of finding little pockets and planting things in them and hoping for the best. Is there any more things I could do to it?
For your rotting logs?
Yeah, to urge those brush piles along.
Yeah, decomposition takes as long as it takes. But you know, you can plant, you know, what'd be good in there is the huckleberries, the red huckleberry. They need to grow out of wood and stumps and stuff like that. That would be a great one to put in there.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Boy, to help them get along faster, you know. Oh boy, I don't have any tricks up my sleeve to help them. Yeah, but there are certain things that grow right out of the wood. So hemlocks sometimes do.
Okay. Would putting a little bit of topsoil on them allow other things to grow, or at least disguise them a little bit too?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I would start, you know, if you want them to rot out and make it complex, just start putting organic material on there, and that will help it biodegrade.
Treat it like a compost pile.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Thanks. Anyone else have anything? Well, thank you. Thank you for listening. I'm just so happy everyone showed up, and hopefully this information can be of use to you. We will have it ready in a couple days, and I'll send it out to you. And if you haven't signed up for our newsletter, make sure and sign up, and then you can like be in the know when our plant sale is and when our events are, and we run lots of volunteer events for like out at River's Edge. One of the pictures that we showed, we need planters out there to help plant. We have to put in 15,000 plants next year. So yeah, thank you. And if anybody, you know, feel free to email me directly if you want, if you have some specific questions that I didn't address. So thanks. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day. With that, I'll just say have a wonderful day and good afternoon. Happy planting.